Tarantulos Brood.
S tier.
I believe you. I totally, I'm up there. I'm with you. I'm 100% with you.
It's Tarantulos Brood.
Tarantulos Brood. Tarantulos have it, right?
Look out! Here comes the Spider-Man!
Tarantulos Brood. I've been talking a lot about them recently, and I think to good effect. I just came back from an event where we went 4-0. We beat some of the biggest lists of the format. We beat Machine Gun Slan. We beat the new Ironjawz with their anti-weight mechanics. We beat out my Wild Dice co-host Demetrios's Bloodbound. Kill missions with no damage. Treasure missions with no treasure carriers. They are fantastic into this format. Today, we're going to be looking at that event. We're going to be doing that event breakdown. So without further ado, let's get into Tarantulos Brood. Let's talk about what makes them cook. Hello, everybody. Right, so this was originally only supposed to be one video, but it ended up being way too long, way too bulky. So I split it into two for you. Part 1 talks all about Tarantulos Brood, how I played them into the missions, and how to build them. Part 2, we'll be looking at the tournament itself. We're going to break down all of those lists. I got Demetrios, I got Charles on. It's a lot of fun. I'm going to put the link to the other half up here. So I hope you guys go check that out, and I hope you enjoy. We're here. I've got Demetrios with me, and I've got Charles, who both played in this event. If you guys want to say hello.
Hi there.
All right.
That's the weakest hello I've ever heard, Demetrios. What's going on there?
Hello.
Hello, Charles. You're here also, right?
Yes, hello.
Yes, he is here too. Right. So yeah, they both played, and we are here to check out some of the lists, get their ideas on the event itself, how it was playing in the event, and just all around having a good time, really. I have the final standings. We're going to start with that. Of course, me, first place. I'm amazing. What can I say? Alex walks with the new Darkoath. I was real happy at. He managed to do that. They just come out, came in second place. We were using tournament quests, and each tournament quest is worth 1 point at the end of the game. So that's why, if you look at the tournament points, they're kind of a little bit higher. Normally, to get 15 points, you would need to go 3-1, but you can totally achieve that with 2 wins and a draw. So that's what all of this big blocking green was. But for the purposes of the event, they still did really well. Charles is in here, but Wildercorps. Demetrios is in here with Bloodbound. Fantastic stuff. We had Gloomspite Gitz, which you don't normally see, which I was real happy at. Couple of Ironjawz players. We got the Unmade, Seraphon, Head Notes of Slaanesh. Shall we get into the lists, guys? I think. First place, I've talked about this list for a half hour, so we don't need to go over it again. One thing I did want to say, though, Demetrios, we played each other in round 1. And yeah. I was really concerned that the play experience of Tarantulos Brood would just be horrible for my opponents. What did you think?
I've had this rant before, right? A swarm warband feels great when you feel like you can do something about it. And I could. I was killing spiders left, right, and center.
You killed all the spiders.
I killed all of them by the end, and it was great. Part of my plan for coming in was, how do I deal if someone is starting to throw a lot of stuff at me? If swarms do come back, I thought it would go better, but it didn't. But that's why I went for Bloodbound, because on a double, you can do an extra attack or a move. I thought killing 3 spiders around for some of the bigger things might work. And that's how it worked. When you had to contest, I could get to you, I could clear a few spiders. I just could have done it a bit faster.
Overall, it feels good when it feels like you're doing something, right? And when you're killing 4 spiders a turn, it feels like you're doing something, even though you could be losing the game.
Absolutely. There's a bit of balance there. And I feel like the other side of that is when you're playing a Soul Blight list, and it's 8 wounds, toughness 4, and then you get the reaction, and your damage gets absolutely annihilated, and you're just sitting there with your big pieces trying to kill a skeleton. I think that's the bit that doesn't feel great. It didn't feel horrible because I felt like I could go in, I could clear, and it was all down to sequencing and kind of playing it correctly.
Good stuff. All right, so not as horrible as people say.
Not at all.
Second place was Alex Wilkes. He came in there with, what are these? Darkoath, the new Darkoath. Yeah. Really cool. He chose to go with the Wilder Fiend and a bunch of Marauders and stuff. I don't think he had access to Brand's Oathbound at that time. Otherwise, there's definitely some things I would have brought. The Wilder Fiend is fantastic. We know it's amazing.
Yeah, the Wild Fiend, it's great. It's a big new Chaos piece. It's not another Thomoroid. It's different. people are bringing something that's in faction, and it's just a really nice big model.
Yep, and it's got the Giga Quad.
Yeah, it's a good beat stick that is kind of unique. Its quad is kind of wild, how it's just like you do this, and then you do this, and then you also do this, and then let's throw a couple of attacks on top. But I think two things to say is, first of all, I think it's incredibly impressive that Alex did so well while also worrying about the event and having all the organizing in his head. But also, the Chaos Sorcerer Lord is a very careful pick because it's there to give the extra strength so
And
that the
attacks.
Wilder Fiend
Plus 1 strength, plus 1 attacks.
exactly, but it's there to crack really high toughness, and it's there to make sure that if the opponent brings something that's toughness 6, you have something for it.
Its ability is on a double, so it's real easy to use, which is a massive bonus for it. And it's not super expensive. It's like 150 points from the Sorcerer Lord. So I think it was a very clever pick on Alex's point. And then he's got the one thing I like about this list is he's got the Fell Rider as well, just as an answer for things like Quiet Pock and Horns of His Ship Flamethrowers. It may not kill them, but it
you
can
need
tie
a
them up.
mobile piece. It fits that perfectly. It's just fast enough to catch things. It's got just enough damage to worry and kill things.
A piece with that amount of speed for 110 points is kind of like, usually cavalry pieces are quite expensive, and having access to something like that for so cheap, why wouldn't you have that additional functionality in your team?
Third place, Luke came in here with Machine Gun Slam. I played Luke in my final game. Charles, I think you played Luke also, right?
Yes, I did. I played round 2, and
What'd you think?
boy howdy. Slan did Slan things. It shot 2 Trailblazers on turn 1 and killed both of them. It shot another Trailblazer next turn, killed it. I finally killed it, but it already done the damage it needed to. It's a lot of power, but it's a very large, expensive model, and you cannot hide it. Good list, and it had a lot of Saurus when you add on the Crushing Bite or the Tearing Bite.
Tearing Bite. Yeah. Did he bite Calthea?
Oh, he ate Calthea in one hit. The Saurus battle trait of always being on that every time you use Tearing Bite, it's just 1 extra higher every time you use it is humongous. It is on a triple, but you get to use that 3, maybe 4 times in a game, or 5. It's a huge amount of damage because it turns 3s to 4s, 4s to 5s. Even a 1 going up to a 2 is a 50% increase in damage for free.
Yeah, totally. What we're seeing with Lizardman lists is people are either going the Slam route, or we're going to see later there's a Croxigor route, and you can just go Croxigor and smash things with Crocs, right? But I don't necessarily think that you need to go Croxigor when you have access to Tearing Bite on your basic Saurus warriors. I think they kind of give you just enough oomph to be able to do things. Yeah, you're not wounding as easily with your Tearing Bite, but the hits that hit will do damage.
Yes.
I think it was Rob that said it, or it was a conversation with Rob. The whole Tearing Bite is a board-wide threat because sometimes you need to take out your opponent's elite piece. Sometimes you just need one less guy on that objective, right? Tearing Bite being able to be used across will give you that kind of guaranteed, this is going to be a lot of damage.
Yeah.
The only problem is when you end up in situations with overkill, but overkill is a better problem to have than
You're going to kill a guy, right?
Absolutely.
You kill him by a little or a lot, it doesn't matter. He's dead. Very strong.
Yeah.
Right, so 4th place, Andy, and you'll know him from the Discord. He brought this time Cities of Sigmar Dispossessed.
Andy's been a bit of a, not threat, not nightmare. What's the word?
Wildcard?
He's been a menace, is the word you're
menace,
looking for.
that's the one. Yes. Andy's been a menace the last few months with his wins down at the pit, Warcry, and obviously in Southampton. So yeah, it's good to see him do so well.
Yeah, yes. But it's interesting that he brought Cities of Sigmar, the dwarves. Me and Toast actually had Dispossessed at one of the top 5 warbands in the game, just for their ability to lock down any kind of objective mission. So as like the core of a warband, if you have a whole bunch of dwarves, so in this case Ironbreakers, because they're the best ones, you auto win on objectives, and you can always ally in anything else that you need to do actual damage. Their reaction is really good on their heroes, which allows fighters to get extra moves or attacks if they die. So that's kind of awesome as well. In this one, he's taken the Scarvet on Cold One. It's the highest move cheapest Tearing Bite enabled fighter in Seraphon. And it took it down with Questor with Grand Hammer to give the Scarvet a bonus move action. Overall, it's a pretty good list. He leverages off the ability of the Ironbreaker to just win objective missions. He's got 2 very solid allies in there to do damage. So I think all round, it does exactly what you need. It's also 9 fighters, which is pretty big for this meta.
Yeah, it's just above that breakpoint, really. You should have 6 on the board on the first turn, so you shouldn't be generally outnumbered for things like capturing areas. The dwarves just being slow does mean you need those extra guys on the board just to make sure you're not going to get outmaneuvered. But that's a very solid list is the thing.
T5 on the Ironbreakers is rough for 75 points. It's difficult to shift. Definitely a great list. Andy's been working on it since last month's TTS League. Good to see it pay off for him.
It's probably not one of those lists you can just pick up and play. It does require some effort to play it because it is all about making sure your models are in the right place at the right time. If you get outmaneuvered, or if you have missions where objectives are removed, and you've suddenly committed too much to one place, you can mess yourself up badly. So it's quite a high skill ceiling, I would say, for it.
Totally.
But if you practice it well and you know how to use it, it's very versatile.
Right, 5th place, Jack Buckland. He did it with Gloomspite Gitz. Not one of the popular choices at all. A lot of people have just written off Gloomspite as being too weak or not all that good. But Jack, he did pretty well here. He's got Loonboss and Giant Cave Squig, which I would kind of expect. It's the fastest, toughest, hardest hitting thing that Gloomspite have. A bunch of nets by the looks of things. He's got a Brugit in there, Stabber with Poking Spears. So it's just a bunch of guys, a Brugit, the Loonboss to do damage, net to tie up things, Boggle Eye for another net, but this time at range. An Ardboy boss with Might is real interesting. He would have the Shield Bash ability because it's the new Ardboy we're talking about, and it's just an all-round tough thing that you can put onto a point and it will kind of take care of itself. And Snurg Sourtongue has a triple pick a number of fighters within a number of inches equal to the value of the ability. Half the value of the ability from the attacks characteristic of attacks actions made by that fighter.
It's a debuffer.
A debuffer with range 3, 4436.
That's not bad.
No, Nerk hits pretty hard.
Let's think about it this way. You're coming up against Vexmore, let's say. On a triple, you basically make Vexmore 1 attack. Because at minimum, you're removing 1 attack from Vexmore.
Yes.
And then suddenly he's not that scary. Gutlord's got what, 3 attacks? If you remove a couple of attacks from that thing, suddenly it's not killing things. That's a very... I like that. Wait, it's actually kind of ridiculous. A 4-4-3-6 damage profile at range 3. So he's given it +1 strength. So it's a 4-5-3-6.
4-5-3-6. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a heavy hitter that can switch off other heavy hitters. But what I see there is what Destruction Soup is all about. And it is you get a bunch of pieces and you have a bunch of options. If you need to stop something, you can net it. He has various nets for that. If that doesn't work, you fight it and you can switch off the attacks and you can absolutely batter it from 3 inches away. If nothing works, you can just walk up to it and push it away. You can't see any really large pieces in that beyond the Cave Squig, which is nice and fast as well. But there isn't a mega boss, there isn't a brute boss, there isn't something that's hefty. But it doesn't need to be because everything in this has utility and everything in this can be the little bit that you need to get out of a situation. So it looks like a difficult list to play because of the amount of options you have. But it's obviously worked really well for Jax.
Yeah, I like this. It looks like it just has all the triples, right? And whichever ability you're going to need, there's a thing to do it, regardless of what it is you're fighting against. So I really like that as a list build. Right. Charles, you did a thing. You came 6th.
Yes, came 6th. It's the same Wildercorps as run in Scotland. I was going to try and, seeing as they launched the new Stormcast in the
September.
FAQ, I was trying to get them built, but the weather decided that I'm not allowed to go out and spray stuff because it was going to rain. So I didn't get them finished, so I took these guys again. It's solid. I kind of got lucky in the matches I got, apart from, I think, against the Slan, where it vaporized me. The first round, it was just keep people away, shoot them, because it was Sybarites, and Vexmore exploded when Calthea decided to roll 6s on 12 dice.
Yeah, I remember
which-
hearing about that. That's unfortunate.
He charged me. He didn't get any attacks on that turn. Calthir's going to try and hit him, maybe bring him down to half health with 12 attacks. And the first roll had 5 6s in it. It's like, oh, that's most of
Looks
Exmoor
like I
done with.
win then.
I played against one of the Ironjawz lists. The new Ironjawz just being, especially the Rages and the Wreckers with the 25 wounds, they are super tanky. Even though they're only toughness 4, they just can tank so much damage.
Hmm.
I played the Kroxagor list in the last round, and the new Warspawn and the new Kroxagors are, again, super tanky. They can take enough hits, and if they do get to you, you explode. The only downside of this list was it was only 6 models, and I killed 2 skinks and just had the advantage for the entire game. But I lost like over half my warband. It's just lots of ranged 8, rolling 4 dice, looking for 5s. That's the only problem with it. You are just so reliant on rolling 5+.
Yeah, crit
just
fishing
have to-
all day long.
Yeah, because you see a lot of warbands who are just toughness 4 and above. If you get a toughness 3 warband, it's happy days. You're winning on 3s. But generally, you're just looking for 5s, and it is just a lot of hopes and prayers. But it's a decent list. It's solid.
7th place, Dimitrios, you did, I think.
Yeah, I did. I knew I wanted to play Bloodbound. So I was trying to find how to make them work. So what we've got there is a list with 2 big threads, Korgorath and Gorehulk. Toughness 5, 30 and 36 wounds. It's quite a lot of heft to go through. And Slaughter Priest is an interesting piece because it's buffed to toughness 5 because I want those 30 wounds to last. But on top of that, between the pull and the range damage, Blood Boil, there we go. It gives you dice. Because before I added the Slaughter Priest, it felt very flat. Not a lot of abilities. There isn't really much to do except run in and hit. A variation of this list also had the rest of the Garrick's Gorebound Retrievers.
Yeah.
Yes. Garrick is an incredible piece. I didn't add him because it didn't fit correctly. You need to have a certain amount of Blood Reavers to be able to dance around objectives. Blood Reavers, pretty much for the rest of it. And Targor and Arnulf are just better Blood Reavers. Those 5 points give you an extra 2 wounds on each. And they also give you a double, which gives the first move half the value of the ability, which means that they can move a potential 13 inches, which is great when you need to get across the field. So having them with the Slaughter Priest and the Korgorath gives you a little bit of it gives you a little bit of flexibility on the deployments not being in your favor. But yeah, like what I found really helpful with the Bloodbound was the pull, and it was the Korgorath and Gorehulk going in smashing face. Especially in a few games I used it, but the one where the Korgorath could comfortably park himself between 3 spiders, knowing that next round I can probably get all 3, just spending a double. And also being able to throw 4 dice, a strength 3, 1, 3. It didn't work for most of this tournament, but it is the kind of thing where it's a lot of dice. And in practice games I've had with similar kind of builds of this, you're bound to roll some 6s here and there. But it was a very fun list, and I'm going to take it out again. I'm looking forward to working on it a bit more and then playing a few more games, getting a bit more comfortable with it. I feel like by the end of the event, I had a pretty good handle on it. And yeah, there's going to be a lot more blood and skulls in my future.
Good stuff.
An interesting thing is, this is actually a similar list to me and Item were talking about ages ago. I was like, oh, maybe you want to do Khorne, because I've got some of the Khorne stuff, and I've got the starter stuff where you have a Korgorath and things like that. I was like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to do. Then Item was like, if you have the Korgorath, how about the Gorehulk? And he's just like,
Have you met my friend the Gorehulk?
This is the kind of list I would have liked to have done then.
Yeah.
It is go smash face, but it
Absolutely.
has a few of those nuanced things. Like you say, you've got the pull in there, and you've got those useful abilities, and you've got the bodies.
Bring me your elites. I will eat them, because unless they have strength and toughness 6, it's not going to go well. So yeah, very fun list.
Good.
Heartily recommend.
Next up, we have Andrew. We got more Gloomspite Gitz here. Cave Shaman, whole bunch of squigs. We are theming around what you find in the caves. couple of trogs. I mean, it's funny, to say the least. The 2 trolls would really
Well,
have to pull their weight.
So I played Andrew on the last game, and what I found is that cave squigs are slightly better than every single other chaff. Their toughness is slightly higher, their strength is slightly higher, so they're hitting on 3s. So I found myself having to dance around the cave squigs because my little guys would not be able to kill them. The combination of movement and slightly above average stats, there's something there. I just feel like it needs some more utility.
Well, the new who's Squig? Zorbax Gitz Squig got
Squigs.
cheaper, right? They are
Yes.
140, but they got a way increased stat
Yeah.
line off the case.
Strength 5 or 5
Yeah, 2
Yeah.
4 damage, 16 wounds. So maybe there's something to do there if you want to do a Squig based warband. You can take up to 2 of them.
The only downside of this list is the objective or the treasure based missions. When the majority of your warland is beast and you have 3 models, you're relying on your troll having to get the treasure, and then he becomes even more target number 1. If it's a bad deployment or something like that, and your troll comes on from the wrong corner, you've now only got 2 models you can potentially get treasure.
Yeah,
super fun though.
I was just going to say Troggoths are dangerous because I think a Troggoth did manage to kill my Slaughter Priest and my Korgorath because they were slightly otherwise engaged. He did manage to just barrel in and get one super low for a Cave Squig to chomp on for the last 2 damage.
Well, these
and
ones
more or less clear the Korgorath with some really good crits. So, yeah.
With these trolls, you give them +1 crit, so they have a 3/7 profile, which is kind of wild. I wouldn't hang Gloomspite Gitz up to pasture. I think there's something there. I think people look at them and say, okay, goblins are kind of bad, and they write them off, but there's space for things. Now that Mollog is a lot cheaper, I think there might be some way to leverage that with Gloomspite Gitz and all of their utility to make a real strong core of a warband. I think that's something we can do.
Well, that's why I really like Mollog as well, because you get something that has, obviously, it's a lot of points, and it's a 5/10 profile, which we have specific thoughts on 5/10 profiles.
Good.
Instead of it just being like a big beat stick that you push and it just does a bunch of damage, it has a lot of area denial capability. So it's got some utility, and in Gitz, there's probably a part where all of the abilities overlap to give you what you want in any situation. It's just finding that space and team that will shield you from most eventualities.
Right, next up we have Jamie. Jamie was playing Ironjawz. I played Jamie in my 3rd Mish game. We've got Brute Boss with Chopper, Brute Wrecker, Ardboy, a Rager even, and an Ardboy Big Boss. So this is an example of one of those new style Ironjawz lists. Me playing against this, I think the most frustrating thing was the Ironjawz battle trait that basically meant I couldn't wait, but he could. The massive advantage of running a really big warband into a smaller warband was taken away entirely in that mission.
Well, I played this round 2.
Yes.
It is good. Like, if it can get to you, it will do what Ardboys do. Its downside is it's 7 models. I managed to kill, through a lot of shooting, one of the Ragers and one of the Ironjawz in the first round. Suddenly, it being down to 5 models, it lost a lot of its potential. But we were playing a treasure mission, and it ended up in a draw because he had 3 treasure on things that I wasn't going to kill, and I had 3 treasure on things he couldn't catch.
Yeah.
I think if I were playing this, I probably wouldn't bother with the Ardboy Big Boss. I would probably swap out the Rager, the points cost that you save from the Big Boss, get something really big and chunky in there, like a Mega Boss. You could probably downgrade the Brute Boss to a normal Brute, because the difference, you're really bringing the Brutes for Umessin, right? So there's no... And the Brute Boss, it does have decent... It does have decent stats. But if you're bringing it for Umessin specifically, you might as well bring cheaper Brutes, which are almost just as good. And then all of those points that you save, you can invest back into either more Ardboys or go Mega Bosses or something like that. So that's what I would do.
It's the issue is you can't just go, we'll just add something with the Goblet Palooza, because then suddenly you lose the Ironjawz.
It has to be Ironjawz.
Yeah.
Yes, but the Wrecker, though, the Wrecker is a menace against weaker warbands. That thing, on a double, he was just like, oh yeah, I'm going to run into your entire deployment group, and I'm going to put them all on half health, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's a great piece. It's slightly expensive, but I think you get what you pay for.
It is also 25 wounds.
It is also-
Like, you are not going to shift it quickly unless you have something of equal power. The other end of your list had 2 Ragers, and this one has 1 Wrecker, 1 Rager. So you've got the choice of the big AoE guy and the big hitty guy.
This very much felt like a feeling out list.
Mm.
It's what I think we've said in a few places there, the last Wild Dice episode as well, and the channel, Rob. Like, you're exactly right. You're missing a mega boss because the main problem, as you said, is you need to get these boys where they need to be, and to do that, you need
Big War.
potential. Yeah, you need Big War. And that really helps you. There's no two ways around it. If you get one of everything that you need, you don't have enough to be everywhere. I think having the Wrecker and the Rager covers you. It gives you tools, but it doesn't let you get them there. It's not a bad list, definitely, but it is exactly the thing we're talking about. Ironjawz got a lot of toys, a lot of tools, but the fact that they've been pushed into Elite, and I say this as someone that plays a lot of Elite, you need to play them a lot. It's the bar to entry is higher than it used to be. You can't just take a bunch of them and throw them in and expect to do well, which is great because it means that even though they did get a lot of really nice tools, they're not going to be everywhere and winning everything because it requires a certain amount of skill. I don't want this to sound like we're talking about Jamie, because
No,
Jamie's
not
wonderful.
at all.
And he also, as a co-organizer, had quite a lot in his mind. And we know that he's also been a menace with Ironjawz. So it's nice to see him take the new one.
These are comments on the new
One for
Ironjawz
them.
specifically. Remember, they are
Yes,
very
absolutely.
new. They are
Absolutely. I just wanted to put that out there and to say, once again, thank you to Jamie for his part in organizing all of that.
Definitely. Next, we have Charlie Bitterlake. Again, he's on the Discord quite a bit.
Yep.
Coming back with the Unmade. I love the Unmade. I love them so much.
Yep.
This is very similar to... I think he took this to Warhammer World once. Didn't have the Fulmari Crusher last time.
No, he had the Groid Myrmidon.
Yes.
And the points changes meant it just made more sense to get the Fulmari this time.
Yes.
I think he did really well with a couple of really rough matchups.
Went into Gloomspite Gitz twice, then drew with Corvus Cabal and lost to Darkoath that eventually came second. I think the matchups might have been a bit rough for him. What this list does really well is it plays super good into like big smashy things because everyone has nets. You got the True Blood in here, which is the ultimate net. But if you're playing into really big warbands like Gitz twice and then into Darkoath,
you don't have enough nets.
Yeah,
you don't have enough net. You don't have
enough.
Yeah, you have damage, but it's very focused on the Fulmari. And you're not going to be able to clear a lot of things, which is the weakness of this list.
I think it was just unfortunate, but against some other lists in this kind of smashy meta, I can see it definitely doing real well.
I think it was a difficult matchup, I think, for Alex.
If you're relying on your nets and you don't get priority, suddenly they go first and something jumps in your face and you're like, well, I was going to net that and stop it killing me.
Yeah.
So next up we have Ishmael. Ishmael ran Seraphon. So I played against this. Charles, you played against this.
Yeah.
Real simple. Triple War spawned with +1 attack. Makes him super smashy. Kicks attacker, Otterpattle, Tok. The list is fine. It's absolutely fine. It's just very small.
He knew that was the limitation. And he was like, maybe I could switch out the Warspawn for the cheaper Croxagores, get another couple of skinks in there, maybe
you don't need 3.
One of the cavalry, get one. Yeah, that was the other thing. Is like you don't need 3, but it does mean you've got a Croxagore in every single deployment. There's one on the board turn 1. It will probably eat somebody. Yeah. But he was missing something that was fast and durable. Mm-hmm. And like in our game, I managed to snipe 2 of the skinks, and suddenly when I just had activation numbers, an objective game, I could just out objective them.
Listen, big beefy boys.
Yeah,
big fans, right?
Big beefy boys.
A 6-person warband is, I think, I'm trying to find a relatively PG way of putting it, but
it's brave,
it requires That's the
Yeah.
right way of putting it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it requires you to be like, listen, this
It's
is
all
going to
right.
be rough.
Demetrios, the average age of people who watch this is like 42, so we're fine.
I know. But yeah, no, it requires a certain amount of
Yeah.
bravery, and like from the conversations I had, it did seem to be very much a, this is going to be fun. Let's try
it
this.
totally
And
is.
yeah, also it also helps you exercise the skill set of playing an elite warband, because just playing small numbers, I think that's something important to mention that came out of this, right? You play differently when you play something like your list, with all those spiders, and when you play elite, you have different things to worry about, and some people kind of prefer one over the other, but it is kind of a skill set, and you kind of learn, like, the more games, the more repetitions you have, you kind of learn what to be careful of. You learn how to do your sequencing correctly, and you learn how to start blocking spaces and using your guys that are usually going to have quite big bases to try and stop the opponent from moving where they need to move, and kind of forcing engagements and forcing your opponent, if they do want to take a point or if they do want to take a treasure, they will have to come and engage you, and that way you can kind of force your opponent to have to lose pieces to you.
My entire time playing it was, can I kill a skink, and can I just dodge being smashed in the face by Croxagore? And it was a very much cat and mouse game. The moment they got to me, my guys exploded. It's unlike a Stormcast list where everybody's a threat. This does have these three huge threats, and it does get you learning how to play with, if you only have a limited toolbox, how to use that toolbox effectively.
And Kixie Taka famously has this triple, which is +1 move, +1 toughness to everyone within 9. So those Croxagores suddenly are going up to movement 5, which makes them a lot quicker. Next up, Dave. Dave brought Questor Soulsworn, a bunch of Grand Hammers, lots of Grand Hammers, and a Light Relictor. So this is another 6-man list, very different from the last one that we saw, considering they're all Questor Soulsworn. So the top end, they don't hit as high, but every single guy has damage, and every guy's got T5. Every guy has
it has the survivability.
Yeah, and then on top of that, they get the Questor Soulsworn battle trait, which is fantastic.
That's the one. It's actually incredible to use 2 doubles to run into 2 opponents and hit both of them with 4 dice.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
If you're clearing chaff, it's great. If you want something to explode, even better. But the fact that you can just chain abilities really worked. And Dave was the draw that I had.
Yes.
And it was a super interesting game, because I would kill 2 Questor in the first round, 2 Questor in the second round, and then he just played really slippery after that to get 2 kills on the following 2 rounds, by which point the movement of them meant that I couldn't catch up with a Stormcast with my big pieces, and it only had to be my smaller pieces, and those were very at risk of dying, as they did. So yeah, no, it was very well played, and it kind of shows you the ability that Soulsworn specifically have to move 8 inches across the board and kill something, and then move 4 inches the other way. Just a Soulsworn drive-by is kind of wild. I think the fact that they have 2 kind of big builds now, which is you can either build straight Soulsworn and then just use the abilities for sequencing to try and surgically remove pieces, or try and do what you need to do before your opponent can catch up to you. And the alternative of getting the Night Questor in and having all of that utility on top, but you're missing out on the battle trait. I think that's a really interesting kind of 2 options, because they both have very clear advantages and disadvantages.
Edward, Corvus Cabal, someone's been listening to Toast, basically.
I'm either having a stroke or I can smell toast.
And he brought 3 Strike Talons. I think that's one too many, personally, because if you're taking 3 Strike Talons, this is an 8-man warband. You kind of want to be running 10 almost, or 11, because you need the additional activations to be able to give the Shrike Talons a space to kind of murder everything that they're going to murder. But you know what? He had fun with it, and you know, I love to see these kind of older, more unplayed warbands in games. I think it's great.
I think it's wild that he found 3 Shrike Talons.
But have
Like,
3 boxes of.
I've been trying to find what to like use to proxy a second one. But yeah, no, I mean, again, if you haven't heard about how good Corvus Cabal are, just look up War Games on Toast.
He's been on my channel and he's done like 3 videos so far where he's been talking about it. He's not just on his own channel.
Open up any Warcry video, and there's a 50% chance that there's a little segment in there about Corvus Cabal.
But yeah, Corvus Cabal, super fun in this edition. Their battle trait made them really good. They get the bonus strength if they jump off of things. The Shrike Talon, again, it's got old rampage on a triple if it jumps off of things, so its strength kind of just goes through the roof and it gets a billion attacks to kill things. That's basically the way it plays.
It's just the fact that it's very cinematic. Like it took them 2 editions and 2 FAQs, but the fact that this is a warband that very much plays round 2 and round 4, you perch up where you need to be next round. And then all of them, the thing is, all of them can do it, because Cabalist's Spear is 4 dice, right? And most of them are 1-3 or 1-4. Any piece, if it's going up to strength 5, so you just roll a bunch of dice and you can do a decent amount of damage. Again, it goes back to having the tools so that every single guy in your team can look at something that is, you know, not 30 wounds, but it's maybe 10 to 15.
Yeah. You want to be able to wipe out your opponent's chaff, because if you do that, then all they have is big guys. And when you're running like 2 big guys and a bunch of chaff, if all the chaff are dead, those 2 big guys they're not going anywhere. They're not doing anything because they don't have the action advantage.
You can just run around them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
but yeah,
you do your diving leap, you murder a chaff.
But yeah, I think I do agree that 3 Shrike Talons are maybe too much.
It's a bit excessive. Right.
And I'm not saying that because I want one.
Next up, Trevor also brought Wildercorps Hunters. Oh yeah, so Grombrindle, we know, is not tournament legal, or not match play legal, rather, but the TO allowed it in this case. Double Arbalista, Scout with paired hatchets, a Trailblazer, a couple of Trailhounds, Warden with double axe. It's got a bit of everything. People keep asking me about Grombrindle and if I was going to build a warband with him in, what would I do? But I just haven't looked at him, to be honest. Double Arbalista is always something that you can do, though. I have tested Double Arbalista in the past. I think you need a much bigger warband than this to go Double Arbalista, because basically all of your eggs are in that basket. And it's not a particularly tough basket to be able to hold in your eggs.
Yeah, well, I'm running just 1 Arbalista, and I find it basically stays in one place and shoots. And that's really all it does. And the problem it has is if people avoid it, or something that's super tough that it isn't wounding on 3s,
or they tie it
up, and it comes on round 2 and it comes in a bad position because your opponent goes, "Oh, I know it's coming on there," and they run a person towards the area where it's going to come on, so they can intercept it. So 2 of them, you will have one of them on the board turn 1, but it is a very static piece, and when you only have 8 models, and 2 of them are Trailhounds, he's only got 1 Trailblazer. It's a lot more of you're really, really relying on those Arbalistas to pull their weight.
Yeah. I think this is more of a fun thematic list.
Yeah.
Right. Next, we had Benjamin brought Headlines to Slaanesh Sybarites. He brought the Lord of Hubris, so he is the winner in my book. He brought Vexmore. He brought 2 Twin Souls of Merciless Blades, pair of Bliss Barb Archer, 3 Bliss Barb Archers, and a Hellstrider. Right.
Yeah. I did play this round 1, and Sybarites are good if they can get to you, and unfortunately, he was playing against the range list.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of traps in Sybarites.
Archers were okay. They did a little
they are
damage,
one of the traps.
They rolled just low was their problem. Like one of them shot a dog and it just did 3 damage, and it was like, well, the dog's still alive.
Yeah, now it might
The
come
Lord of
down
Hubris
to
he got gunned down.
so it might just come down to availability. But if you could build this
Mm.
list basically with anything, you wouldn't bring archers at all, and you'd bring Blissbrew Homunculi
Yeah,
because they are
yeah.
55 points, not 95. So suddenly the list gets a lot bigger. Symbarish are fine. I quite like Symbarish. I think they're pretty good. The Hellstrider with Claw Spear, it's a fast
fast.
piece that can go tie up things, which is
Yeah.
kind of useful. I like it.
It's got enough damage. It's got a 2-inch range, and it's there to be the beast that runs around places and goes stabs a guy on an objective who they thought was
Sure,
safe.
but like my brain is just saying, okay, well, you could be like a Slangor instead. Slangors are pretty good.
They're pretty good.
pretty good.
This is very far, and also because
It
it's
is-
got
it
the
is
quite
super fast.
long base.
Base.
It's got the cavalry long base. It kind of has that. It's a little bit difficult to get to places sometimes, but it's still one of those ones where it's a good piece. But yeah, it's 135 with might. I knew the Lord of Hubris was a big threat, and I had to kill him, so I just threw every dice at him till he died.
Yeah, he's not particularly tanky. It's just when he gets
No,
there, he'll do damage.
yeah.
And isn't this where you like triple? No,
Yeah, this is-
pentacrit Vexmore.
Yeah, Vexmore. He used the double for the extra move, so he could get to me, but he had no
Yes,
attacks, and
yes.
then Calthea just smashed him in the face until he died.
There are ways that you could improve this, but things like homunculuses, you only get one in the archer box. So
Yeah.
you basically have to convert those, and then there's a whole bunch of other things you need to do to bring, like, I want to say optimum. Like there's the Slake Slash, of course, is one of the very common pieces in that. There's like there's a whole list that you can do, but yeah, I think some of the choices were interesting. And lastly, we have Joe Hutton. He also brought Ironjawz. It was 4 Iron Boars with choppers, a War Chanter, pair of Ragers. I like the War Chanter. I've always thought it's a very good piece. I don't necessarily know if I would go double Brute Rager. I would, again, be tempted just to bring a normal Brute because you want you messing, and Brute Ragers don't have it.
He's put ferocity on both rages for the extra attack.
Yeah, which is good.
and
Like
they are your
good.
Musings.
They're
Yeah.
legitimately good. But
All 4 Ard Boys, Blessing and Might.
Yeah, making
Yeah.
him strength 5.
Strength 5.
4,
Yeah.
4, 5, 2, 4.
It's a good
I
profile.
mean, it's not
And
bad,
toughness
yeah.
5 and 15 wounds. They are not as good as Stormcast, but they're also like 30 points cheaper than
Yeah,
the
they're
same,
like 20
Stormcast.
points, 25 points
Yeah.
cheaper. Yeah, I think it's an interesting list. I think definitely like there are ways that you could improve it. Again, I like the War Chanter. I think it's got really good. Its ability is really good, but it has that problem that you were talking about, right? It can't really get places super quick. The War Chanter goes a little way to help.
Yeah, because you can do a 1. If you get a good triple, it's decent. But it's the fact that the Great Wa or Big Wa is like 9 inches, so
Mhm.
that allows you to maybe place yourself in between 2 deployments.
Yes.
instead
Yeah,
of
like
only 1.
round 1, you move between your 2 deploy, or you move
War
between all your guys.
has a range of 6 inches, and you add
And-
half the value of the ability to the move characteristic of fighters when they're within range, right? But it's just not the same as Big War.
Also,
No.
Big War is on the Mega Boss, and the Mega Boss is
Yes.
on that huge base. So suddenly
yes.
he's got like an extra 2 inches on his range.
on top of the 9.
On his
Mighty War is a 9-inch range, and it just adds a flat 3 move. So-
Yeah, and he's on a 50 or 60 mil base because
60, I
for some reason
think.
he's on this giant base for some reason.
He's ridiculously big.
yeah.
So
Dinner plate.
again, I think it's interesting. Round 1 was a Ironjawz mirror match, so either Ironjawz are going to win there, or someone isn't. Round 2 was against Questor Soulsworn, and the Soulsworn kind of just out-damaged the Odd Boys because they all have hammers in this case. You can see
I think
kind of what
the
happened
strength
there.
5 probably helped on the Odd Boys, meaning they're wounding back on 4s instead of 5s.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
Stormcast be Stormcast.
Yeah, and it was like double Marvelous in round 3, which is just unfortunate.
Yeah.
And then Slaanesh Sybarites in round 4, where if Vexmore gets into any one of these Odd Boys, he's basically killing an Odd Boy a turn, 1 or 2. But that is it. That's all the lists. Some quick thoughts about the event, guys. What'd you think? It was not a terrible size, right? We had like 16 players turn up. in
Yeah,
the
it was
end.
good. Really good event, really well run. So There was 3 people running the event, which was really good. They were all going to be playing, but one had to drop out because we had one other player drop out. And then the 2 other judges basically switched rounds playing one of the lists, which was really cool. Meant there was always somebody available. It was really good. But yeah, it was a good mix of warbands is the thing. Like some new stuff, some old stuff, some stuff that you've seen is buffed.
What
Yeah,
about
really good mix.
What about next time, guys? So Demetrius, you're planning on playing more Bloodbound?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll be getting my Gore's Fiends soon because I was looking at it and the jump from the regular guys to my Gore's Fiends, the 95 point guys, there's something there which I'm gonna have a look at. And I just really want to fit Garrick in. She's a really interesting piece. It's a
You
very
just
kinda
like big,
gambling-
naked, sweaty men, don't you?
Honestly, like his whole thing is like he got his name because his boss pissed him off and he bit his Adam's apple out. Because bit
Jesus.
his throat out and all the gore went on his beard, and that's why he's called Gorebeard. And honestly, who hasn't had a boss that they thought of?
Who hasn't bitten your boss's Adam's apple out?
Well,
I do it every other day. Well, we
listen, they couldn't get the charges to stick, but moving swiftly on. No, I think it's gonna be more of that. You might see me pull out some Soulsworn and try them out because I've got them built and I have them mostly pinned. I just need to do the basing. But to backtrack a tiny bit, just a big thank you to the Southampton Warcry Club for making us feel super welcomed, and the place was great as well. And I'm really happy that I made the trip. And also, I'm just super excited to get more tournaments in the new meta. I still think there's a lot of space to be explored, a lot of things to be discovered, and a lot of like new and cool things. I think it's gonna be an interesting few months coming up.
Sure, totally. And Charles, you are riding high on Ruination Chamber, right? Last I heard.
Yeah, I want to get them. I want to get the Reclusians built and painted. I kind of was just like looking at. Hang on, just like Reclusians, the Lord Terminos, like the guy with the Griffhound, and it's just like really small, super elite, and it's like, yeah, give them a go, have some fun with them, because also trying to get them built and painted to at least run them as a spearhead in Age of Sigmar, even though they're not in spearhead, but the other stuff is. And just like I haven't actually I've had some Stormcast models for ages, but I've never actually built and painted them, and they are just big, chunky, you can kind of be a bit dumb with them and just throw them at people, but they still do need a bit of sensible playing.
Yes, of course.
I was gonna say, as a resident Stormcast player, it feels like that, but it doesn't go as well. But sometimes
they're all super tough until they start dying, and then you got problems.
20 wounds will go a lot faster than you think, but you do have the kind of bit. One of the positives is that they do slightly scare people. So if you move if you move like a Hammer Soulsworn in, right? Even though you can kind of calculate more or less how much damage they can do, they don't have a high ceiling, but it doesn't matter. Like people still go,
it's 4 attacks at strength 5. It's doing 2/5 damage. Ooh, that could be 20 damage. It could be 8. They're fun. They're also they look really good to paint. They've got a lot of different details on them with the cloaks and the armor and all the little trilling kits, and then you've got your little Reclusian buddies that go with them.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm very excited about that. The last thing that I'm kind of considering is how do the new Stormcast allies fit into Warrior Chamber? Because I know Warrior Chamber, everyone's just expecting it to get nuked from orbit, but I'm gonna be. I built those 3 Star Soul Paladins, and I'm gonna play them as much as I can, and I'm
just destroy people in a hit.
Right, you just push it in, and it's like, whoops, I hit in the crit for 12 damage. But yeah, no, I think the new Night Questor with a Soulsworn Knight Relictor might be a good shout for like moving your pieces across the board quite well. And also like it kind of gives you that bit of safety from swarms, because being able to count for more on points.
Oh yeah, the extra models on the point, yeah.
Like you can't go as far as everyone, counting for it, but it's a good bit of the way there.
Well, that's something for
Future.
future. Something for the
Food for
future.
thought. Play Star Soul Mace Paladins.
play
Why aren't you
Paladins.
playing them? Just
All right,
put
let's-
a little mace at the top. It's fine. It's
Right,
allowed.
Right, that's it for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this was something interesting to you, especially all of my ramblings and ravings about Tarantulos Brood. There's more to come. Trust me on this one. Thank you, Demetrios and Charles, for coming over and having a chat today.
Thank you, Fenris.
My pleasure as always.
Thank you, thank you. So yeah, as always, guys, if you like what you see, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let us know down in the comments what you think about some of these lists. If you've got some interesting builds, we are happy to hear them. If you have any interesting tournament reports of your own, again, happy to see it. We just love to see more games of Warcry being played. But yes, that's it for us for today. Thank you very much for watching. As always, I've been Itan, this has been Off Meta Musings. That's Demetrios, Charles is back there, and we will see you next time.